Okay, so your main portfolios, though, are housing, fishing and energy.
Yes.
But you've also got this personal interest towards the roading, the
Yeah.
broadband, getting into Northland,
Yes.
getting into Whangarei. On a more personal, like your family, how long have you been in Whangarei for?
Oh, well, I was born and raised in Whangarei.
Okay.
So I was born up at the base hospital there.
Oh, awesome. Another Whangarei person. Yeah, that's great.
That's right. And all my kids were.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got there on time. So, yeah. So, and my wife, she was actually born in Auckland.
Okay.
Which is fine by me.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but she grew up here. So my wife went to primary school here. She went to Raurimu Avenue and Tikipanga High School and Whangarei Intermediate. And I went to Mani Primary and Waverley Primary and Kamo Intermediate and Kamo High School. But I went away to university. So
you actually ended up being a teacher as well, weren't you?
Well, I went to university and I did an engineering degree, an agricultural engineering degree, and a master's in that. And then I came back to Whangarei in the early 90s, and the only job going was a teaching job. And I thought, well, actually, this might be pretty interesting. So I taught at Tikipanga High School for 2 or 3 years and really enjoyed it. But left that and ended up working for the dairy industry as a professional engineer.
Culture, so it would make sense.
Yeah, so that's what I did. But and then I shifted to Cambridge. So I was living in Cambridge for a couple of years with Jenny as a newly married couple, and that's when, that was in the late 90s. In 1999, the opportunity came to stand for National, so I moved back to Whangarei. So yeah, hometown. And that's why, I guess whenever there's an issue on the table, whether it's transport, as you say, or broadband, or anything like that, you tend to always look at the issue through the eyes of your local electorate or district. Yes. So when I'm talking broadband in our team with John Key and Bill English, I'm not thinking about cities, getting access or fast access. I'm thinking about, people out at Waipu or Tutakaka or, wherever getting access.
Hukanui or anywhere in the middle of nowhere, that's
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, right, so being local born and bred, you're interested in these things. Now, you mentioned John Key and Bill English.
Yeah.
Now, there's a bit of a tussle going on between those two. Well, it appears to be through the media.
Right.
I know Bill English was the head of the National Party at one stage, and then it became to John Key. So what's happening there is...
look, well, I mean, they're actually great buddies, and they hugely complement each other. They've got two different skill sets, really. And there's nothing wrong with it, actually. We've been very delighted the way that it's panned out. Bill English was the leader of the National Party for a couple of years there, and I worked under Bill as leader, and of course John Key is now, and that's sort of the way it is. But those two are acting, beautifully together, and I think the media, sparked on by the Labour Party, try and cause as much trouble as there is. But I can tell you there'll be more speculation about Helen Clark's leadership after the next election than there ever will be with theirs.
Now, John Key's also got a big interest in Northland as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, he's actually Member of Parliament for Helensville, which is north of the Harbour Bridge too. In fact, there's 7 electorates north of the Harbour Bridge, and National holds all of them after the last election. We've got East Coast Bays, North Shore, Northland, Whangarei, Helensville, Rodney and Northcote. So there's 7 seats north of the Harbour Bridge, and they're all held by National, and that's why State Highway 1 and the development of Northland and essentially getting the infrastructure right, like electricity generation, that type of thing for Northland is quite important to all of us, and so we've been very keen, to get that right.
Now, Mark Farnsworth went down to a meeting in Auckland there and had a bit of a discussion with, Mark Farnsworth is the Northern Regional Council leader there, and there was a discussion saying about Auckland wanting to cut off the power to Northland, and Mark said, well, go ahead and do that, but do you guys not want any oil? So does Auckland or the rest of New Zealand tend to forget that Northland provides quite a bit to the rest of New Zealand?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the oil refinery, of course, is a strategic asset, and the reality is if there's no power supply to, Northland, then, the rest of the country doesn't get any oil. But that's not the only thing, of course, because agriculture, particularly dairy farming, and those sorts of enterprises contribute a lot to the national economy, and a lot of that comes out of Northland. My concern has been with electricity generation that most of Northland's power does actually come from one cable coming up through Auckland. Wow. And if there's a national power shortage, then Aucklanders get first dibs at that power. And that's why I think it's very important that we have our own power generation in Northland and servicing Northland, and we need to look at that pretty soon.
So that's in the cards at the moment, or is it something that will be happening later
Yeah, well,
on?
there's lots of opportunities at the moment of minor generation. Even North Power themselves are looking at generation in the north. But what we need is, major generation in the north, and that might be a combination of wind power, expanding geothermal at Nafa, gas-fired power station in the Rodney district. They're looking at that type of thing. So there's opportunities there, but we've got to go ahead and do that. I do know that with all the industrial land available out at Marsden Point now, because you'll know there's a lot of zoning there, that there's been a bunch of very large businesses and companies wanting to set up there, and the decision not to came down to the security of power supply. Essentially saying, look, if we bring our manufacturing up here and the power goes out, we're stuffed. So until we've got guarantee of power, we're not moving.
Well, that's interesting, but we've got Marsden Point, and Marsden Point needs the power, and it doesn't generate its own power. So
no, that's right. Well, essentially, and that's the other company's argument, is that, well, we've already got someone here that's using virtually all the power that you can supply, and in a shortage, we're going to be competing for it, so we just can't do it. So they want security of supply, and they want to know that enough power will be generated in a crisis for them to continue work, and they won't shift to Marsden Point until they do, and I think that's sad for Northland.
It's very sad. Yeah, it means that the rest of New Zealand gets ahead of Northland, yet Northland's got so much more to offer.
Oh, well, I mean, you've got the Deepwater port right there. Why wouldn't you set up a big manufacturing business or anything right beside a port on greenfield land, where you can develop the way you want to? And they've even got a decent water supply out there now.
Yes, they have.
The only thing stopping them is energy.
That's a shame.
It is.
Oh, Phil, the only last question I have for you is in relation to the polls.
Yes.
How are they going at the moment?
Oh, well, I guess the National Party team look at each individual poll, but we don't get overly excited. If it goes up 5% or goes down 5%, we're pretty, it's just relaxed about it. What we're interested in is the polls over time, like the momentum of where the polls are going. And it's like a business, really. It's not, if you have a down month, it doesn't worry you. If you have 6 down months, you're pretty worried. Yep. And it's the same with the upward spiral. If you have a good month in business, you're pretty happy. But if you have lots of good months, and our polls are the same. And essentially, we've won the last 18 monthly polls, so it's been a year and a half, and we've won every poll every month for a year and a half. So 18 polls where we've been ahead anywhere between 7 and 25%. So we're in good spirits. Right. But essentially, it's only election day that counts. It's the only poll that counts, and we're working really, really hard. And John Key sent a very serious signal to our team that, we're working right through to election day. People are interested in what a national government would look like. We have to articulate our policies very clearly, and we're not going to win this unless we do the hard work. So we're enjoying the polls, but it's by no means over.
Well, a lot of people will turn around and ask, how are the polls actually done? Because a lot of people feel that they're totally biased or they're one-sided. How are they actually generated?
Oh, look, they're highly scientific. They are. They're statistically very accurate.
Okay.
And we do our own polling.
Yes.
And, I mean, we wouldn't invest in polling if we didn't think that it wasn't scientifically robust. And the fact of the matter is neither would TV1 or TV3 or any other local polls that would be done. So actually they're pretty accurate.
Okay.
And we rely on them. As I say, we don't rely on a one-off poll, but certainly momentum over time tells a story. So although people might be upset about what the polls are saying, the reality is if they're done properly, and you're silly not to rely on a poll that's done properly, then they're worth taking a look at. Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Phil. I appreciate you coming in and having a check out the TV station. I appreciate having a chat with you about it.
Yeah.
Do you, on the TV station side, do you see a lot more support for local television stations from the National Party?
Oh, look, we're always very interested in local people taking charge of their own things. I mean, it's part of National Party philosophy to be, independent and free thinking and private enterprise, that type of stuff. So when local communities do this sort of thing, we think it's just great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad we're doing it on the right track.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, it is. And I think the biggest challenge really is to get out there and to make sure that Northlanders know it exists, how easy it is to access on their TV, support it through sponsorship or advertising, and go for it.
Well, we've had a really great uptake on advertising from the local community so far, and I know we're going to keep going further, so it's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
No worries, and we'll catch you next time, I'm sure.
That's great.
Hopefully before the elections, or maybe just slightly after, to see how things go.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's Northland Today with Phil Heatley. Next time we'll be talking to Mark Farnsworth from the Regional Council. We can get his point of view on things as well and find out a bit more information about him and his life. So until then, I'm Vince Coccarello and I'm signing out for now. Thank you.